Let's start by thanking Top Taste for sponsoring today's seminar. Top Taste is a family-run business that has been growing onions for decades. Their crispy onions can be mixed directly into doughs for pizzas, bread, and other savory bakery products like I will show you later today for an amazing flavor and texture. It's true. It really changes the dynamics of these products that I will show you later. So let's go into Q&A, and I'll do my best to answer as many as possible. So many maybes in this question. What is the product you're trying to make, Janet? And there is no right or wrongs. It's how much sour you want it and how fast you want to grow. You know, if you're not using yeast, go down to the lower side. If you're not using yeast, go up to the higher side. If you're using yeast, go down to the lower side. If you want more aroma, go up on the higher side. If you want more fermentation from bacteria, which gives you better flavor, go up on the higher side. So it really depends on what product you're going to use. I say, 10% about there is very typical. If I have to guess, it's the one of the longer fermentation would have a better flavor. In terms of acidity, the one that is at a higher temperature might give you a sharper sour. Great question. That's all Maillard reaction. And if you look up Maillard reaction on BAKERpedia, you will learn about the different components that attributes to more golden, darker crust. Obviously, adding sugars might not be in your point of view a good thing, but at the same time, when it comes to darkening of crust and sourdough, I mean, the sourdough process is really not favorable to Maillard reaction because of the low pH. The higher the pH, the better the browning. Okay, so it's just something that you have to deal with is a higher temperature for the colorization of the crust. Thicker crust is definitely starch gelatinization on the crust during the first part of the baking process. Okay, so this is also very, very scientific. Okay, the more steam you give your bread, the thicker the crust. But the more steam you give the bread, the longer it takes to bake because there's so much water in the oven. All right. So it's kind of, this is why I love the oven profile, the thermal profile so much, is because you will understand that relationship in the oven. You got to give it as much steam as you can without affecting the entire baking process. All right. So if you're a batch baker, say you're a batch baker and you steam for 10 seconds, give it another 5 seconds or give it another 10 seconds. You work with it, but that's going to delay your total baking time. Okay, so remember, the more you gelatinize on the crust, the more you have to bake out. All right, so your temperatures on the end zone of things need to be higher a little bit. I would add the crispy onions at the end of your mixing process, just like what you would do with your raisin, like when you make raisin bread. If you're a high output baker. If you are a batch baker and you don't have high outputs, I would put it actually at the dividing and molding stage. It just gives you more flexibility. Yep. There is no direct correlation between pH and TTA. It's two different things. So the electrode on the pH meter records free acids, whereas the TTA method records bound and free acids. So it's two different calculations altogether. You just have to do them separately. Good question. I think there's quite a bit of research on that. If you could look it up. Enzymes, as we know it, are proteins, and proteins are affected by isoelectric points, which is affected by pH. So there are hundreds of thousands of enzymes in that sourdough bread. So each one will have its different effect, right, from the pH. So it's really hard to nail down exactly and precisely what the lower acidity does for the enzymes. I don't think 4 is too low. I think 2 is low, right? But I think there's still a lot of enzymes that are somewhat active at 4 to 5. And I think most of the enzymes are most of nature's biological enzymes are very comfortable at neutral pH, you know, but sourdough bread's enzymes are pretty much active during that time, that particular pH 4 to 5. And the reason why I say that is because it's through the enzymatic action and through the pH that really ripens the dough. This two aspect of activity is what makes your sourdough ripe, right? So that's why we know it works. But certain type or certain genre of enzymes, you know, in terms of classification, I think that is a case-to-case scenario. I think you're going to get the same effect with the gluten-free products. I mean, like this is the same with injera, right? The African bread with sorghum. You're going to get the same sourness. Just remember, you are working with a bacteria and a carbohydrate source. So any kind of bacteria and carbohydrate source is going to give you a natural sourdough. That's a good question, because we have not done studies that high up of an elevation. I would go down lower on 200. I will try like maybe 185 and 190 for your arrival temperature and see from there where you are. I think it's really up to you to run your own tests at that level of elevation and determine, you know, what arrival points are best for you. A lot of the programs, for example, the ECD breadometer is targeted at 200. Perhaps you just want to be maybe 1 to 5% above 200, you know, rather than change the arrival temperature, you just change the arrival percentage. And also sourdough bread is very similar to white bread, which is not similar to multigrain bread. Multigrain bread, actually, I have seen systems that don't even reach 200. right? So they set their arrival temperature at 180, right? So it depends on product again, and it depends on where you are, and you are free to change those arrival times and temp. The one biggest point we have to focus on in terms of arrival times and temperature here is the shelf life, the staling aspect of the sourdough. So once you control the arrival time and temperature, you get a control on how bad or how good your sourdough stales over the lifetime. Quick answer, no. But also, I know how long the fork mixer takes to develop the dough. And if you take about 20 to 25 minutes to mix a dough with a fork mixer, then you might just be able to align it well enough. But you're not going to get the same amount of big gaseous cell structure if you depend on the fork mixer to fold your dough. I think that's what the person is saying, but hand fold is probably the only way so far I've seen for folding to happen, unless there is an automated process. I would like to learn about that if you have one. I have to say I'm not a croissant expert. That would be Mark Florka. And when it comes to croissants, you know, so much fat in there. It really there's pretty much not much of the fermentation happening after you laminate the product. So a lot of the flavor has to come from the bulk fermentation side of things. So hopefully, you know, you get, if you're looking for more flavor in your croissants, you just have to make sure you bulk ferment it and control the time and temperature. So in terms of, I know a lot of people still give the croissants overnight proof, but that's really not necessary for the flavor. Get all the flavor up front. So that's just my suggestion. And if you are trying to reach Mark for pastry questions or me for more bread solving questions, we just launched our Baker Concierge membership program. It really starts from the free model, which you are at right now. And if you find that gives you the value, our base model is $3,600. That includes a consultation directly, and that also includes a round table with us monthly. So if you would want that as part of your professional development and part of your growth as a sourdough baker, please send Lily an email. Joanna, can you put Lily's email here? We are starting up our Baker Concierge program, and you can get more information from Lily at lilylee@bakerpedia.com. So that's all for now. Yeah, lilylee@bakerpedia.com. Send that email a query on what we can do for your sourdough production, and as a whole, you know, how can we consult with you, because this is a lot of questions, this is a lot of problems, and we just can't solve it within an hour. But thank you all for coming. We have not seen this many signups, and we really hit a hot topic today. So I appreciate your time, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.